do you tell the best story online? Because nowadays, people are living in a global digital world. A lot of people have had to transition, and Kalada actually touched on that. So the pandemic brought about a lot of change in our different countries. A lot of businesses had to transition online. So there are a few brands flashing on your screen at the moment. You might recognize some of them. Some of them you recognize them basically maybe from the color or just from a very distinct element that's in their logo. We're going to talk about logos very soon. So we're going to explore today what is a brand, why branding is important, and I'm also going to be sharing with you 5 simple steps to start developing your brand. Okay. So your brand is your identity, is who you are. What is it about your business or your service that makes that product or service unique? How are you solving a problem for your customer? And what is it that people think of your experience? So outside of it being about your product or service, it also has a lot to do with the experience, right? Branding can also be something that's quite experiential. Is your brand consistent across different channels? Are you telling the same brand story in terms of how you market your brand, the kind of messaging that you use, and also the experience that your customers expect from you? So it's all encompassing. So if you could think of a brand, I also have a question for you guys. So if your brand was a person, and this is quite a useful exercise, if your brand was a person, who would that person be? So if you think about famous characters in movies, fictional or even actors, if you think of a famous person, who is your brand? Somebody said Oprah. That's amazing. King of Boys. I love King of Boys. Rihanna, yourself. Okay, so how are you portraying yourself, your true essence, your authenticity to your customer? Because that's what they will connect with at the end of the day. So a brand is all encompassing. Think about it as a 360. Think about a person. So if you're a person, you have your physical appearance, you have your voice, you have your personality, you also have, your spirit, your mind. Jesus, oh yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's also about how people perceive you. So wherever those touch points are, and I'm trying not to use too much marketing jargon for you, but if you think about your customer journey, how does your customer work, play, interact, communicate? Where are they playing? Where do they live online? How can you connect with them in the right way and at the right time? Okay. So now the first part of actually starting a business and creating a product and really fleshing it out is actually finding people who care about what you do. Fine, you sell product. Who cares? Why is that important? Why should I care? There's so many people that are selling shoes, or there's so many people that are selling marketing services. It's a very competitive market. Why is it that people would care? And how do you find those people who care about what you do, right? And how do you make them care? And the way you make them care is by creating a brand. And I'm just going to try and break that down into simple terms for you as much as possible. Your brand is fun and Yoruba. I love it, Beatrice. Thank you so much for that. I'd really like to know more about what that brand is, because fun and Yoruba is amazing. I love this GIF as well on the screen, the art of fufu. So how do you establish your brand personality? That's the first stage. So if your brand was a person, and think about it in a very organic and very holistic way. If your brand was a person, who is he male or female? What's her name or his name? What kind of personality? Connie the Queen, I love it. What kind of personality does he or she have? If he or she was like somebody that you actually know, who is that person? So there are a few things to consider, okay? First is, what do you want people to think, feel when they interact with your business online? So what feelings do you want them to have, right? This also has to do with color and the type of language that you use. And also imagine if your business has a personality, what would that be like? Is he or she serious? Is he or she comedic? Is he or she sad, emotional? Is he or she very open or very reserved? Those are the kinds of things that you would like to. Somebody said confident, Maureen, confident, beautiful. I caught a couple of your responses. Thank you guys. I'm really loving the interaction. And the third is, what makes your business unique? So, there's a business out there for everybody, right? There are a lot of brands that are selling the same product, but what are you doing differently and what are you selling that's different, right? This is outside of your product or service. Are you doing what somebody else does, but are you doing it better? That is one way to start as well. Okay, step 2 is create a unique name for your business. I was looking up a little bit about some names that we are familiar with. So has anybody heard, does Google mean anything, guys? That's the first question. The word Google, we're all familiar with the search engine. What does it mean? Does it mean something? What do you think? That's interesting. Google equals search. Yeah, it's now become synonymous with search. But to be honest with you, Google doesn't mean anything. It's not a word. It's actually came about by mistake. It was, the name of the company was Google, which is basically a mathematical term. And I think when they were registering the business, they got it wrong. So it was a typo. So Google doesn't mean anything, but it's amazing how Google has built a brand that's now synonymous with search. It's now synonymous with finding things, finding information. And Google does not mean anything, guys. It probably is in the modern dictionary now. So things that you can try. Google, yes, Google, yes. Things that you can try, okay? Number 1, making it descriptive of what your business represents, right? It could just be straight up, what is it that your business represents, so that it's clear, especially for new brands. It's very clear what you do. You could use an acronym that shortens your full name and makes it easier to remember. So something like the BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Corporation. You see, that's a big mouthful. So you could use an acronym that makes sense, right? You could use your own name, right? You can incorporate your own name into your business. One of the things that I've seen happen over the years is also people who are partners taking an element of their first name and an element of the other person's name and putting it together. So if you know about the brand Tesco in the UK, that is a name derived from 2 different names of the 2 people that actually came together to start that business. For instance, Ben and Jerry's ice cream, there is actually a guy called Ben and there's a guy called Jerry, and they came together and they made Ben and Jerry. It's very, very, very simple, and you can actually connect with it. And a general rule, especially for new businesses, is avoid anything that's overly complicated, that's too long, that's difficult to pronounce, that has too many words, right? It's ideally, it should conjure up thoughts in the minds of the people that you're trying to speak to. So try and do half the work so that your customer doesn't have to try and decipher what you're trying to say or what you're trying to sell. And ideally, it should have a meaning. My business is called Sparkfire. There's a long story about that. I'm happy to tell anybody that wants to hear, but I don't think that we have time on this call, but happy to share. If you want to reach out to me, I'll tell you the whole story. And it's amazing if the story for your business actually has a backstory, okay? The name for your business, I mean. The next slide is a slogan. This can be really tough. And actually, don't put yourself under pressure. One of the things that I've learned in my journey through my career and as well as a business owner is this: try it. If it doesn't work, you can do something else, but you would have learned something. So don't beat yourself up about trying to take everything so seriously. Take baby steps. I think with my business, I've changed the slogan several times. And I also have, I love art, passion, and flavor, Jean. That sounds really, really cool. And what that conjures up in my mind is that it's about something to do with artisan catering or bakery or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. So write your slogan. I have different slogans for different reasons as well. So in my business, I have maybe a general slogan, but then I also have other slogans that I can use on other materials. I'll come to that later on. So it can be a simple statement about the value your business offers customers, your mission, a unique characteristic that sets you apart. For instance, what are some of the famous slogans that we know? Can you put them in the comments? I have a couple in mind, but I want you to, a few famous brands with slogans that come to mind. Just do it. That was exactly the one I was thinking about, Silva. That was exactly the one. Why does Nike say just do it? Why? What is Nike about? You think about that. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. And then choose brand colors and fonts. I like to be very interactive. So when you're choosing colors, there's actually a tool that I wanted to share with you all, which has a bunch of colors. It's called couleurs.co. Check it out. It's free. You can actually go in there and you can pick certain colors that you like, and it'll actually come up with like color schemes for you that you can use for your brand. So a brand can be about more than one color. Okay, I popped it in the chat. I'm going to pop it in there again. It's called couleurs.co, which is coolors.co. And what it does is that if you pick some colors that you like or you think that go with your brand, you can actually pick out color schemes so that when you're designing your materials, you have, some colors that you use that's outside of just one color. Okay. And just to touch on fonts, guys, use fonts that are clean. It's spelled COOLORS.co, Gabrielina. I will pop the link in the chat for you. Again, it's a super, super, super useful tool. Check it out. The other thing I was going to tell you is that in terms of fonts, one rule of thumb is try and use fonts that are sans serif. So not things like Times New Roman or anything. And when you're thinking about fonts, make it as simple and as clean as possible. So for instance, the font that we see on screen in this presentation is very clean. It's very easy to read. You don't have to get into anything complicated. Look at the Google logo, very simple. And you can identify Google by the colors, right? So your logo is essentially to tell people who you are. There are certain colors. There's something called color psychology. Google it. There are certain colors that evoke certain feelings in people. So check those out. I love orange, mainly because of Nickelodeon, but orange is a very friendly color. And I enjoy using orange in a lot of materials as well, because it's a very friendly and bright color, right? Link it also the type of products or services that you sell. If you're selling a product that is very formal, you might want to go with a darker tone, which is more serious. And then also think about the benefits that you offer, all right? Green is nice for natural skincare, fantastic. Now, building brand loyalty. Building brand loyalty is all about what is it that makes people come back and tell their friends about you as well, right? So brand loyalty is basically positive feelings, those warm, fuzzy feelings that people have towards your business. It could be about you. People can just buy into you. And because it's you, you're being authentic, they will keep coming back because they love the experience and they love the interaction, okay? So loyal customers will keep buying from you. They will try your new products or services, and they will also tell their friends. A lot of businesses are driven, even mine, by community and connection, right? One person would tell 3 people about a positive experience, but they will tell 300 people about a negative one, all right? So bear that in mind. And with social media now, you can't be too careful. Okay, so 3 ways to build brand loyalty, right? So I'm going to be sharing some tips with you. Number 1, provide what matters most to your customers. The first thing that I like to think about, I love that customer-centric approach in business, right? So the first step is to take a step back and really to take some time, and by time I mean like at least an hour, sit down and truly think about what problems it is that you are solving for your clients. What is it that their pain points are? What is keeping them up at night? What major problem can you help them solve now? And what is the impact of them not solving that problem? And doing this exercise is really useful for you to actually dig down and drill into some of the things that motivate your ideal customer. Okay. So for instance, Amazon is a marketplace, right? But it sells convenience. These days, especially in the UK where I am, even groceries you can buy on Amazon, and it's about convenience because I don't want to step out and go to the supermarket. You know what I mean? So that's what Amazon is trying to do. And what they're trying to do is ensure that their customer experience is always seamless and as quick as possible and as convenient as possible, right? So the next is offer a 7-star customer experience. We're aiming to exceed expectations, guys. So don't think about 5 stars. Think about how you can over exceed and impress, because you're in a very competitive space. You're vying for attention, especially online. Everybody is now a content provider. Everybody is now a content creator. So how do you stand out in a cluttered marketplace? That's something that you can really think about. And it could really also be about how you market yourself, right? It doesn't have to be, content marketing doesn't have to be a hard sell. It could be about how you do your marketing, and that's how people connect with you. Think about Nando's in South Africa. Guys, go and look at Nando's marketing. It's awesome. Look at how they respond to tweets and look at their ads. I think that the South Africans in the room will be able to relate. It doesn't have anything to do with selling chicken. And then reward customer loyalty. People love to be thanked for their custom. People love to be rewarded. Think about things like referral campaigns. Think about, because if you know that word of mouth is a very successful marketing strategy, then why not reward people? Referral campaigns can be quite successful for your business.